Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I'm going to pick up where I left off here on our Spider-Man door poster. Um, I thought it was Ditko, which it is. It is a Steve Ditko drawing, but apparently Marie Severin had taken Ditko's drawing and cleaned it up and just changed it to fit the door poster format, the 6 foot um, format there, because this arm in the Ditko pinup, this arm was out straight, and it was a little bit different. It was the pose was just a little bit different, but it's basically Ditko's drawing. All she did was bend the arm in at a right angle and kind of cleaned it up a little bit and probably re-inked it maybe. I got to take a look again at the. I don't have it handy, but I have the Ditko pinup. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can find that, so I could just bring it in here and show what it looked like. But I'm going to stick with the door poster. I'm going to stick with the because it's such an iconic image. I didn't even know about the Ditko pinup. I just assumed that the door poster was done by Ditko. Ditko Spider-Man pinup. Just bear with me for 1 second, and there it is. All right. Let me see here. So let me see if I could bring it in. There we go. Hopefully you could see that, and compare it to the poster. So yeah, his legs, the stance is a little wider, and you can see the arm is out straight, and she bent the arm in like that at a right angle. uh, for some reason, if you look really closely at this reference, it looks like she indicated a mouth and a nose, which is not on the Ditko pinup. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if I should just sculpt this, but I think I'm just going to stick with the door poster, and I'll just eliminate the lips and the nose. Maybe not. Maybe I should stick really close to the door poster since it's such an iconic image. But let's get sculpting anyway. I'm blabbing too much. Let's start sculpting, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So anyway, what I did was I put the reference directly behind the figure. If I turn on transparency, you could see that, oh, it's a little bit off there. So I'm going to just pull in these little areas right here, the arm, and up here the shoulder. You see that? It helps if you put the reference directly behind the model. You could really line up the money shot perfectly. But, it's still, come on, grab it. It's still a question of figuring out how it looks from the other angles. I've seen AI try to do it, and AI does a good job at getting the money shot, this angle, but it falls apart. It just goes right off the rails when it has to figure out what the back looks like. Most of the softwares I've seen just look like hell. Look like hell when you spin it around and look at the back. So that's why you need a sculptor. You still need a sculptor if you want it done correctly. So anyway, there you go. It lines up a little bit better now. Let me turn transparency off. and everything is kind of lining up, and that's what I get when I when I turn it to the side. So I'm going to go with that and try to make this work. I see some wonky anatomy issues that I'm going to have to deal with. What works in 2D doesn't always work in 3D. So anyway, let's get sculpting here. I'm just talking way too much here. So let's see. I blacked out the eye holes. There's the head. Let me hide the head for now. And I'm going to break this up into parts so it makes it easier to sculpt. Let's see. I'll take the torso off. I'll break it at that natural break line where the red meets the blue. So let's see. Let me make it a little bit more transparent. Up here under preferences, under draw, we've got back face opacity, and that can make my model even more transparent. And that also tells me that my arm is too thick, my forearm. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to break it right here at the waist. So let me get his left arm out of the way. I'll hide that just so I can get a clear look at what I'm doing here. Okay. Let me zoom in. And I'm just going to start painting a mask. Just trying to tweak this a little bit better and line stuff up. That back foot is way, it's perspective. It's in perspective, but it still looks way too big. So I'm just trying to tweak this as much as I can. Okay. Still talking, Tony. Let's go. Start sculpting. So I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard and start painting a mask on the lower half of the body. And I'm going to mask it off right at that break line. The red costume line. Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of painting a mask on the lower half of the body. And what that's going to do is allow me to create a different polygroup, a different color. And then I can separate the lower half from the upper torso. You see that leg, how weird that leg is. I mean, both legs are weird. This is completely crazy the way Ditko drew his lower legs. It's just completely bent. But I'm gonna stick with it and try to make it work in 3 dimensions. Let me hide this arm as well so I can get around there and paint this mask properly. So you can see it squishes up here on this hip. Let me get a smaller brush. There we go. There we go. All right, now we turn transparency back on just to double check and see if we're close. Looks like we're pretty close there. Yeah, it looks okay. Okay. And when you hold down Control and Alt and tap on the mask, it makes it crisper, more crisp. I only got 350 points. I should probably Dynamesh, and I should probably get some more resolution there. So let's go up. I'm at 800 now. Let's divide again. If I tap on the mask without holding Alt, it blurs it. You see that? If I hold Alt and tap on the mask, it makes it more crispy. So, I think we're good to go. Let's just fix that again. When I divided, the arms came back, so let me hide the arms again. I got a little perspective thing going on here. I think that left arm is a little too long. It is lining up with the money shot. So, but I'm gonna have to make do some tweaking. You know, I'm gonna have to make it work in 3D. Can't have like a giant gorilla arm, even though it will match up to the artwork from the front view. You can't have this giant arm hanging down. There's a lot of anatomy issues going on here. I'm going to correct as I go. But right now I'm just trying to break it into pieces. So, here we go. We have the lower half of the body masked off. I'm just going to hit Control W, and that gives me another polygroup. Let me bring back the arms, and now I can split by groups, group split. I have a custom interface going on here. I put the button up here, but I guess it's down here somewhere in one of these menus, probably under polygroups. Polygroups, group split, group visible, group masked. It's actually not here. Where is group split? Where the heck is group split located? It's easy enough to make a custom interface like this and drag all your favorite brushes and your favorite materials down here and up here. But just for the heck of it, let me try to find group split. Here it is. This is where group split is found. But I dragged it up here, so let me just hit group split, and that'll split the always okay. Now, the upper torso is there. You can look over here in my subtool menu. The lower legs, the legs are here. So I just want to close that hole. And I want to close that hole. Oops, there's something missing. Is crotch auto groups. Split hidden. Yeah, that little patch right there belonged to the legs. Let's see. What's the best way to handle this? Spidey 14. Let me just save my work. Okay, Spidey 14. I think I closed the holes anyway, so yeah, yeah, that's okay. Let me just auto groups that, and we'll make that part one group visible. Bring back that. I want to keep these two polygroups here. I want to keep this as a separate polygroup because I want to make that a nice crisp line. You see, it's very shaggy right now. I'm going to Z-remesh and make that nice and clean. And I need the group to do that, so I'll show you that in a minute. So anyway, we're going to close this hole. Close holes. Whoops. Close holes. There we go. And that little patch right there, we'll just delete it. Delete. All right. Now, I can work on this separately from the legs. Do I want to separate anything else? I think I do. I think I want to separate the arms so I can see the torso a little bit more clearly. The torso is a little bit weird at this point. It's just blocked out, but that shoulder is kind of growing out of the pectoral muscle. I'm gonna have to do some surgery here. So let me just separate these arms. I'll do the same thing I did with the legs. I'll mask it off. I'm gonna draw the shoulder muscle, a nice curve so it fits nicely. The muscle kind of looks like it fits nicely instead of just a sharp flat cut. I'll draw like the deltoid and remove the deltoid muscle. Remove it at the deltoid with the deltoid. And that'll do. I think that'll do. Okay. Control W. Group split. Close holes. And, whoa, what's that? Oh, rats. I had a group down there. I'm going to merge that back down. Merge down. Okay. Let's take off this arm. Where's the arm? There it is. Close holes. What was I doing? I was going to take off the other arm. There we go. Okay. And just paint the mask. And this is going to let me work on the torso and make sure that the torso is, anatomically looking correct. Because right now it looks like the arm is growing out of the chest muscle there. Okay. Good enough. There we go. Split hidden. Close holes. This one the arms I think I could do group visible. I don't need that. I could just try to smooth this out. Because we're going to merge this stuff together again down the road anyway. Okay. So there's that arm. That'll be easy to work on just as one piece like that. close holes. And let's do, what is going on there? Oh, I know, I have an extra little slice right there. Let's do group visible auto groups. Yeah, this we don't need. Let's do delete hidden. And just kind of smooth out these cuts right here. Just a little bit. Okay. Now we can start sculpting. That's not too bad, actually. It's not symmetrical. I don't have symmetry to lean on, but I can see where, you know, he's got a nice curve going on. In fact, let's draw a center line, and that'll help guide us when we're sculpting. That'll be the rib cage, the lat, collarbone. So it's not bad. It's a nice twist. I think I can work with this. Okay. So I got 1,000,006 on the total active points up here. Let me divide one more time. I'm going to get a lot of geometry, 6 million, because I want to do some sculpting here. Let's turn off this alpha. I got my clay spin brush, and let's just block in a rib cage. You notice I'm going in the direction of the ribs. I'm sculpting, or drawing, if you want to call it drawing, you can call it drawing, in the direction that the ribs go. I think ZBrush was originally conceived as a 2.5D, not a 3D program, a 2.5D program, whatever that means. That's what I've heard many times, and I can see that. It is kind of like drawing in 3 dimensions, but it is very much sculpting. Anybody that tells you different doesn't really know what they're talking about, because this is as much sculpting as sculpting with clay. I've done them both, and this is exactly the same. This is the exact same process that I used when I was working in clay, just building up the forms, constantly turning the model, making sure the silhouette looks okay. Whoa, that's a little too big, that brush. All right. I find that the people that disparage digital sculpture and look down their nose at digital sculpture have really never done digital sculpture, because if they had, they would know that it's exactly the same as traditional. It's exactly the same amount of work, the same skills you need to get where you're going. I mean, we don't see these little ribs here and these tendons in the artwork, but I'm just putting them in there for my own reference, and I'll kind of smooth them out later as needed. But I just want to make sure that it's anatomically looking okay before I move ahead. So this arm is back, and this arm is forward and squishing the pec. So this pectoral muscle will be bulkier, and this one will be stretched. This one is squashing. So, but I want to make sure that that arm looks right and it's not growing out of the pec. All right. Let's see. Let's see the back now. There's the trapezius. Spider-Man, I always think of Spider-Man, I always think of him as a teenager and a kid, and I don't want to make him too muscular. And especially Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko drew him at the beginning when he really was, a high school kid. And Ditko's style, it makes him really thin anyway to begin with. But I never liked the muscular Spider-Man. So I'm gonna put these muscles in right now to make sure that the anatomy's right. But I'll probably smooth this down a lot as I go along. It's far too muscular. I mean, the poster is pretty. He's pretty muscular in the poster, but he's still on the lean side. It's not Thor. Okay, so now I've really lost the silhouette. You can see that hump in his back there. So I'm just going to go back and pull that down. And pull in the ribs. Oh man, look at that. You know what the problem is? You know why that's all messed up like that? My brush, my focal shift on the brush. You see that? It's a big circle. I need to turn that focal shift back like that so that there's a little circle inside the big circle. So let me Z back and get rid of all that mess that I just made. There we go. Okay, now I can go and fix the silhouette again. There we go. It's a great tool, this transparency button. Really lets you put your reference exactly where it's supposed to be. I mean, it really lets you, put your reference behind your model and put your model exactly where it's supposed to be and line it up perfectly. Okay. Let's just do a little smoothing now and make them less lumpy. Let's go down to the lower subdivision. It smooths easier. All right. Let's see. I think I'm going to Z remesh. And get some new topology here because it's too much. It's not smoothing the way I want it to smooth. So I'm just going to go to ZRemesher, turn off Dynamesh, go to ZRemesher, and just hit that. And it's going to give me all brand new clean topology and a much lower point count. And I'll just divide it a couple of times. See that orange line right there? That's going to go all the way across to this side. So it might take a second. Oop, there it goes. I'm on an older Macintosh, and I'm on an older version of ZBrush. I'm on 2022.0.7, and I think there was only one more version. It was 2022.0.8 was the final version before the ZBrush went subscription, before they sold the company. Pixelogic sold the company and to Maxon, and it became a subscription software. So I have not upgraded yet. I'm still using like a legacy version of ZBrush, an old version of ZBrush. I bought the software years and years ago, over 10 years ago when it first came out, and back then I paid like $800 for the software. And it was great for about 10 years or so. They just kept giving you free upgrades every year to the latest version. But then they sold the company. And that was a bummer. That was a big bummer. And I have refused to, pay for the subscription. I'm not even sure how much it is. $30 a month, $50 a month, I'm not even sure. So anyway, there's my Z-remeshed version. But this does the job. I don't know that the newer versions have many more features. I know there's a couple of interesting features that I'd like to try, but as of right now, this is doing the job for me. I'm just trying to get some real nice, clean topology to work with. That looks good. So I'm going to just divide that 1, 2, 3, 4 times, get back to 1,000,000 at least. And that's good. Let's go see what we can do with the legs now. I'm still on the torso. Just want to give this anatomy just a little bit more attention before I move on. Okay. Whoops. All right. Okay, let's work on the legs here. You know what? I'm going to group visible. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to just do group visible and Dynamesh again. And you know what? Let's Z-remesh. So I think what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do, this thigh looks a little long. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to make the anatomy look good, and then I'll go back and try to match it to the artwork, the silhouette of the artwork. But just for now, I'm going to try to make the anatomy, halfway decent, in spite of these bended legs. I'm not looking at the reference. I'm just going to try to do what I think is correct anatomy, because this artwork is all over the place. If you look at the artwork, the muscles are not where they're supposed to be, and that's kind of like a big bump there, and that's a weird shape, and this is kind of incorrect. This leg muscle should be down here, and it's just all kind of funky right there. So I'm going to try to correct it and sculpt correct anatomy, and maybe at the end I'll kind of just tweak it a little bit just to try to match this. But I mean, I really don't like to ever put my own spin on things. If I'm sculpting Steve Ditko, I'm gonna have respect for the source, the artwork. So I hate to quote unquote correct, this guy's drawing, because I'm sculpting a Ditko. I'm not sculpting, an anatomical figure. I'm sculpting a Steve Ditko, just like when I sculpt Jack Kirby's stuff. You're not going to have like perfect anatomy with Kirby, but that's not the point. That's not what he did. He did incredibly dynamic drawings and poses, and he was cartooning. He was caricaturing the action and the figures. And that's what made him so great. Even Frazetta did it. Frazetta was a little bit more realistic, but he pushed and pulled. These guys, they used photo reference. Even Norman Rockwell did it. They used photo reference, but what made them stand out is they pushed it. It enhanced it. So anyway, just rambling. So I'm trying to, again, I'm getting carried away with the muscles. Peter Parker is supposed to be a kid and a teenager, and he's not supposed to be this muscular. But I'm just trying to put it in there so that it looks correct, and then I'll water it down. Let's see. Yeah, these legs are much too muscular. All right, let's turn off Dynamesh. Let's Z-remesh this and do the same thing we did with the torso. Let's get this down. It's only 239,000 points. So the Z remesher is going much quicker here this time. So that'll allow me to 5 subdivisions. That'll allow me to smooth out my forms much better, much quicker, much easier. All right. I can live with this leg. I mean, it is that there's no shin bone there, but I can live with it. I like it. It's very Ditko. So I just don't like the thickness of the legs and the muscles. He's too big. He's too bulky. And I really want to make sure that it feels like a young person. If I'm going to cheat, I can cheat from the back view because the back view is not visible in the poster. So whatever I can get away with, I'll do it on the back side of this. And try to keep the front view and the money shot as close as possible to the artwork. All right, I'm liking it. Now this is one of the problems of sculpting in the pose, is that you don't have your symmetry. You can't rely on your symmetry button, which allows you to make things correct. It allows you to make the feet the same size, the thighs the same length. You know what I mean? And sculpting in the pose, you just gotta kind of eyeball it. You don't have that luxury of having that great symmetry feature. It's probably the biggest thing with ZBrush, with digital sculptures, is the symmetry feature. That's probably the biggest advantage that digital gives you. Is that you only have to sculpt one ear, and the computer will populate that onto the other side. I mean, you still have to sculpt that ear, and you still have to sculpt the foot, but you only have to do it once instead of doing it twice. So, but when you're sculpting in the pose like this, you're kind of on your own. That's where your training comes in. That's where your eye needs to be trained to look at that. I mean, I suppose I can chop off one foot and bring it over here to the other side and just measure, use it as a measuring stick, which I'll do. I will do. Because I don't want one foot way, way bigger than the other foot. I think his right thigh is a little bit longer than his left thigh. So I want to check that as well. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun thing to print out and see what happens, because this is going to be the first time that I'm trying to use acrylic rods to support the figure. The sculpture I did just right before this one was the werewolf by night, and it was a similar running pose like this. And what I did was, to solve that, I just put a rock under one of his feet. And I probably should have done the acrylic rod thing, but I didn't. I put a rock under there, and it's working out fine. He's balanced. But this one, this one is a very, very iconic image, and I want to stick with it. And so I'm going to try to put some acrylic clear rods up into this knee and into the other thigh underneath, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if it works. This is such strange anatomy, and it's just breaking the rules, man. Ditko was like Kirby. He wasn't a slave to exact human anatomy. He punched it up, and he made it look cooler and more exciting, on the page. I mean, look at that leg. All right. You'll see me doing this from time to time, just sketching on the model. It just helps me. It's just a guide to help me know where the muscles go. And then you always can smooth them down. There we go. Really want to pull out this thigh right here. It's not going to line up with the artwork. Okay. Very nice. So far, so good. All right, let's see what we got with the arms now. Okay. Let me Z-remesh. Divide. And let's try to get that looking good. Okay. All right, let's just see if we can lock in some muscles here. There's the deltoid, that little muscle in the middle. There's the bicep. Here is the big forearm muscle. Tricep. Back in the deltoid. Tricep. I don't know what this muscle is called. There's the elbow bone. There's the inside of the forearm. Okay. Now, let's knock it all back a little bit. Okay, sorry if I'm being a little quiet. I'm just kind of concentrating. Alrighty. Here's the thumb. Oops. Okay. Ooh. Draw some knuckles. Alright, we're getting there. All right. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Let me see what this is looking like. All right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Spider-Man is one of those characters where it's got so much um, costume detail that if you're going to do a sculpture of this guy, you had better make sure that your anatomy is where you want it, and your forms and your figure is what you want before you begin to put that web pattern all over the costume. Because if you're not going to get a chance, if you screw up the anatomy and you start sculpting the web pattern and the costume stuff, and you want to go back later and adjust something, you're in deep trouble, because you're going to destroy hours and hours of work. if you need to correct anatomy, you're going to destroy it. Like, the web lines have to be really precisely done, and you want to make sure everything is just the way you want it before you start doing the tiny tertiary detail. And It's getting close. I don't know how much more I can do with this. Other than, let's take some measurements. Let me Z-remesh that on. Yeah, I mean, the money shot lines up, so the front view lines up with the artwork. And then it's just a question of figuring out this angle and the back view, which looks okay. The back view looks good, and that view, which looks okay to me. It doesn't look that awkward. So I think I'm good. I think I'm good to go. I'll just blend the arms back together, and I'll start doing some costume detail. I don't know how much more I can do. It's a pretty straightforward character. Yeah, and it helps me once I get the colors going and some of the details on there. It'll help me see it better as well. I guess the web lines will be the very, very last thing to do. All right. Thank you for looking. I'll come back with the next video. I'll start to put some costume details on, some scribe lines and stuff like that. But it was just a little cleaning up the anatomy at this point. There's still things that I see that are bugging me, but I don't want to stray too far from that front, angle. There's still some anatomy issues that can be addressed, but overall, I think this is as good as it's going to get if I want to keep it in this ballpark. All right, guys, thank you again for looking, and I will talk to you guys later.